Here on the Honcast channel doing some coverage for the It's Gosu May Open number 2. We're starting things off in the round of 32. I think there's only one round of 64 matchup today, so most teams starting with a bye in that round, and well, the second round technically is really the first round for most of these teams. So that is exactly where we're starting here. I'm Zayori. With me is Breaky CPK. We got a couple of games coming for you guys tonight, going all the way up to the round of 8, and of course the semis and the finals will be coming up tomorrow. So with that said, Mr. Breaky CPK, how are you today, good sir?
Glaciers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely right. The Invitational this month is bigger than past months. Past months, that whole donation drive, I think, is kind of in effect here. So all that extra cash is lumped in. So this is really a big Invitational, and I think some of these teams will be going at it a little bit harder, perhaps. And it's a good thing to note the 4 teams that qualified before, TDM. I had a couple people PM me, why isn't TDM playing? Are they playing Dota 2? No. They're already qualified, so they do not need to participate in this qualifier. End of story. So that's where we're at with TDM. So that's a very important thing to point out. So, of course, we are going to have I'm actually spacing on the names of these teams, Breaky, because they're not tagged up. They're not tagged up.
Maraxas. Ollywog Priest.
Mm-hmm.
Silhouette. Cthulhu.
Yeah, definitely right. And we're skipping right through the banning phase here as well as the picking phase. Let's just look at the bans real quickly. Of course, starting off with Keeper of the Forest, followed by Pebbles, Tempest, Ophelia, Magnus, Parasite, Demented Shaman, and Tundra. Any thoughts about these bans, Breaky? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would certainly agree. Really not a hell of a lot to note, I suppose. Going into the picks here, though, as well, pretty standard picks. One of the things that you noted in the first rounds, usually slightly more amateur teams, at the very least less well-known teams. So far the picks look pretty normal. We've got Glacius, Polywog, Priest, Maraxis over here for the Legion side. Of course, their last 2 picks just about to finish up. And they are right-clicking Monkey King, which could certainly be interesting. We've seen him a time or two with varying success, but they're all over the place with these right clicks, so time will tell, I suppose. Over on the Hellborn side, Cthulhu, Bubbles, Silhouette, and Plague Rider are going to be the first 4 picks there, and of course, Hammerstorm selected for their 5th pick. So, and there it is, Emerald Warden, Nymphora actually going to be the combo, and I think we've seen that lane combo a time or two, Breaky, and it can be quite irritating to deal with that nonstop mana and wolf spam.
Yeah, it has been it's definitely been a while since we have seen that lane combination, but you're right. I mean, when it was picked up for about a month there or so, it definitely proved to be a very dominating combination of heroes. Of course, B-Kid for TDM was really where it shined, at least in my mind, when he played the Emerald Warden. with Sender, Glacier support, of course. So definitely were a big part there. But yeah, I look at this team and definitely think very aggressive for the most part. Of course, Emerald Warden, one of those kind of heroes that she can definitely develop into a later game carry, no doubt. But she'll also be very useful all throughout the game, simply because of that silencing shot, if not her other abilities. So. That's always could definitely be considered a solid pick. It took a while for, it seems like, myself, and I know you as well, like for it to grow on us, but she has become actually a pretty dominating hero if used in the correct hands. So we'll see how our Legion team over here deals with her.
Exactly. I mean, you're exactly right about Emerald Warden. I really didn't think she was that great at first, and over the time, I was like, you know what? This hero really brings a lot to the table. And now I'm sort of on the opposite side of the fence, where I'm surprised we don't see Emerald Warden more often. But what's kind of curious here is they have Nymphora and Glacius, and both of them are going to pair fairly well with either one of the Emerald Warden or the Miraxis. So I'm curious, are they going to go for the kind of more aggressive Glacius Emerald Warden double slow lane, or the Nymphora Emerald Warden lane, which is maybe, I don't want to say less aggressive, but maybe not as kill-oriented, a little more keeping you harassed to the back of the lane more so than picking up a lot of early kills. Should be interesting. Over the Hellborn side, they're going to finish off with Hammerstorm, so they're going to stick to their guns here. And, we mentioned this Legion side looks pretty aggressive, but the Hellborn team has a pretty solid roster of their own. It's shaping up to be a great first match here.
Yeah, it is. And again, with two teams, don't know too much about simply because it is earlier on in this Gosu event, but when you look at the banning phase and then the lineups that were picked by both sides, it seems like we have two teams that at least are pretty confident when it comes to this stage of the game. So now, of course, the next step is, of course, going into the laning phase and eventually executing which heroes you picked up. But I look at this Hellborn team, and I definitely like it. I mean, they got a good control of CC, but also, Silhouette has proved to be a very dominating ranged hard carry on the competitive scene as well lately, so always a good pick to go with her. I mean, as far as their lanes are concerned, that's maybe what throws it off a little bit. I do wonder if we are going to say, I mean, I would think Plague Rider, Cthulhu Font, it looks like they are heading towards that bottom lane, so that means it is going to be Hammerstorm babysitting the Silhouette, actually. Not something you would maybe expect to see too often, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Hammerstorm maybe go into more of a roaming role from the beginning. But with Plague Rider Cthulhu Font, you're another stun on your team being all the way at the bottom lane. I don't know if it necessarily will be the most efficient either. So yeah, I'm curious to see how much of an impact this Hammerstorm has here for this Hellborn team.
Yeah, and the Hellborn side has one of those rosters where you look at it and you go, wow, every single one of their heroes are powerful, picked frequently, but do they have that synergy? And just looking at the lane phase, I think you make a really strong point that, this might not be the best laning setup. So as long as they can survive that portion of the game, they'll probably be in pretty good shape. But, as we've seen plenty of times in the past, that first checkpoint, if you will, is that laning phase. So they have to be pretty careful not to fall too far behind in the early stages. But, Hammerstorm Silhouette, babysitting perhaps, but this could just be a really aggressive lane. Hammerstorm opening with the stun, then Silhouette following up with the tree grapple. I mean, I can see this top lane being pretty successful as far as actually picking up a couple hero kills, kind of depending on who they go up against. And it looks like it will be Miraxis Glacius, at least to start things off. So maybe not so easily on Miraxis, but Glacius may find himself having a bit of a hard time up here.
Yeah, exactly. That's the unfortunate thing about your tree grapple stun, though, is, of course, the positioning that you have to be in to be able to use it effectively. And especially without that portal key, it can definitely make it a little bit more difficult. So that may, I do agree with you, definitely having some double stun potential, great, but Glacius also, a hero I would highly doubt will admit here playing Glacius. You would think at least that not going to necessarily put himself up too far to maybe allow Silhouette to set up a follow-up stun to a Hammerstorm stun. But, that's what it comes down to. If he does go out of position, then by all means, our Hellborn side can really capitalize with that potential that they have down or up at that top side. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. But for the most part, I think Silhouette should have a fairly good time when it comes to her farm. I mean, Glacius can harass, but again, that will put him up a little bit too far. And if Hammerstorm's able to land a stun, which I'm sure he will, then, can't get a kill. So we'll see, again, how that top lane plays out. But middle lane, we do have Bubbles versus Polywog Priest here. So your good old 1 versus 1 matchup. Polywog Priest, probably expect him to have the better time when you look at the two heroes matched up. But at the same time, Bubbles kind of simply used to that. But, of course, has to wait for that level 6 mark, especially on Polywog Priest when he can do that ward trap. But we'll see if Bubbles is able to avoid that. So we'll see how this middle lane plays out here.
Yeah, definitely. What's cool about this middle lane is both heroes become super deadly at level 6. They're both that, as soon as you see that ding, you really want to be careful, and that really sets the lane up for kind of an interesting dynamic. And as always with that kind of 2-1-2 lineup, rune control is particularly important. And actually the Legion team, I don't know if they have much... I guess this ward does give sight. There it is, right there down in the bottom. So I was actually kind of curious if they're going to have rune sight, but I think they do. So
yeah,
always an interesting dynamic to get. Does that
it's
ward
not
from Arctiger
it's
give
not
sight?
usual, but I think it barely does. It's one of those cases where you'll be able to like see the top part of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
Yeah,
if it's full
that's
vision.
close. We'll see. We'll see if Polywog Priest heads down there. It is going to be a haste rune that spawns bottom. So we'll see if either of these heroes end up going for it. Just taking a look at the GPM chart overall, though, Silhouette is off to a pretty good start in this top lane with the Hammerstorm Babysitter. As we see Hammerstorm pulling some creeps into the lane here to get back some of this lane control. And going pretty well for Silhouette. But on the same side of the coin here, we see Pew down in the bottom lane on that Emerald Warden, actually doing reasonably well himself. So the game starting off really quite even on both sides.
Yeah, nothing too crazy so far. Obviously, only 2.5 minutes in, but again, nothing going too out of hand. And we talked about a lot about the Emerald Warden Glacius matchup, but indeed it did end up being an M4 Emerald Warden, of course, which at the same time has its own very strong benefits as well. When I think of this, obviously I think Grace of the Nymph spam on Emerald Warden, allowing her to use that Hunter's Command. And the greatest thing about this lane set up for them too is that there are two heroes, and that's where you're able to make most efficient use out of those wolves, because if he had 2 instead of 1, just do the simple math, and a lot more efficient. So that's obviously a strategy that they are continuing to take advantage of. And another, I brought this up before too, and I can't reiterate it enough, I think, is the greatest thing about their harassment tool with those wolves, and it doesn't push the creep wave. It doesn't, farm the creeps and push that up. It only goes for the heroes. In fact, they're going to go to Plague Rider right there, and Plague Rider will fall, so he's stuck in a little bit too long, and a great initial Zeal Stun came out from him to set up the easy kill. So there you go. That bottom lane, man, that's a dangerous lane down there.
Yeah, exactly right, and that was definitely a little bit nerve-wracking, I think, for Nymphora. It ended up being a nice stun, but as we saw, the stun only clipped Plague Rider on the way back, so almost a miss, but ended up being a nice setup for a kill. And we saw the amount of damage Emerald Warden can put out with those wolves, as well as that silencing shot, even at these early levels. So part of the reason why this lane is so deadly. Already, look, both Emerald Warden and Nymphora at a pretty reasonable amount of mana. Just the wolves are non-stop. I think both Plague Rider and Cthulhu Font will be wise to pick up very early mana batteries, probably as early as they can afford them.
Yeah.
Just because there's going to be so much magic spam.
Very, very good point. So yeah, the fact that they don't have one yet, definitely unfortunate. Actually, that is a really good point to bring up, with how much spamming is going on at this bottom lane. But you would hope that in the very near future that they do look to invest in one, because the longer you wait, the longer you're missing out on getting those possible charges stacked up. So you see Cthulhu Font right here. He's dropped to 200 life. This is dangerous, because then comes the wolves. It drops into 120 life. 2 more of those wolf spams, and he will be dead. So again, this lane combination, it really is so powerful if you have to go up against it. It's powerful and also very, very annoying, because what can you do against it? It's so hard to get out of the range of the wolves, because they have great range in the first place, and obviously you can't go line of sight because they chase you wherever you are. So I feel for them right now.
Yeah, and that was actually going to be my point, is how do you effectively counter this? I guess you just have to sort of tank it, buy some health potions. Is this just one of these lanes where you kind of go for that mentality of, all right, Plague Rider, you hang out down here, deny the lane, do what you can to slit on Emerald Warden's farm, but we're pretty much just going to sacrifice this lane. Maybe Cthulhu Font could move into the jungle a little bit and just leave Plague Rider for a true suicide lane presence. Emerald Warden's basically free farming anyhow, so that could be a potential way to deal with this, depending on how much farm Cthulhu Font really wants to pick up. He does have a hatchet here, and he's only a 165 GPM, so he's probably fairly disappointed at least as this game's getting started off.
Well, the strategy that they are going for, and it's kind of obvious as this goes on, but it's a double deny. He does a level 2 hook him now, and he has been using that to deny creeps as well. So that's why this lane constantly is pushed up. So at the very least, they are getting some decent experience, and whenever it goes to the tower right here, you see, they will get a couple of creep kills in here and there. So yeah, I don't know though. Going back to your point that you made about maybe Cthulhu can go in the jungle. I think that could be very worthwhile, especially if you send him to that top jungle. You just have Plague Rider sit down here, do his thing with the Extinguish Deny, and Cthulhu Font would also be in prime position to set up some ganks perhaps at this top lane, where we talked about with the Hammerstorm stun to lead it off. So in fact, speaking about that, they are going to Hammerstorm stun on the Meraxes. In comes a Tree Grapple stun as well. Meraxes is going to use this Quake, though I'm more than likely going to easily get out of here. I don't see them doing nearly enough pressure. So yeah, an attempted gank, but no kill's going to come out. But yeah, we'll see if any change is made, but so far it seems like they're going to commit to just staying at this bottom lane for now.
Yeah, and it seems that quite a few teams are really underestimating Cthulhu Font's power in the jungle. It's something we've been seeing a little bit more frequently, and some teams doing it kind of with varying success, but a lot of teams, especially some of these more amateur-style teams, sort of feel like it just seems they're really not so confident about Cthulhu Font in the jungle, and I don't know. It would be a viable option here, I think, at the very least. Like you said, they're going to keep him down there for now. Up in the top lane, though, Silhouette going to be in some trouble. There's the Hammerstorm Storm. Our Hammerstorm stun going to go out onto Glacius. Silhouette actually going to do a lot of damage, and they turn it around onto mid, so Glacius going to fall. Hammerstorm trying to finish off this kill. Nice juke from Silhouette. That axe not going to hit, and Hammerstorm going to be able to chase back a good old Meraxes there. So actually a really nice turnaround. Looked like almost a sure thing onto Silhouette. Nice play from Hammerstorm to throw that stun onto Glacius instead of Meraxes, and ultimately allowed them to turn that around. So really nice plays there by the Hellborn.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried for Silhouette right there. I was gonna, no, why are you jumping in like that onto Glacius? But it still was able to set up enough, so yeah, very well put in there. Bubbles trying to pour it out with the ward trap, but a great tongue-tied at the last second before he could by Polywog Priest, and gets the kill. So excellent timing on his part. Started out with the Hex, set up the easy ward trap, then eventually the tongue does so. As I said, and not that I'm a genius or anything, but once he hits that level 6 mark, even if you have that portability like a Hag or a Bubbles, you can still be very, very vulnerable because of the mass CC that Polywog Priest puts out while he has those wards up. So a perfect example right there. Easy kill for him. And Vian Sensation here on Polywog Priest off to a great start. Early Ring of Sorcery, and is the best farm in the game right now at 307 gold per minute. So, yeah, good start for them. And, of course, Emerald Warden following shortly. And speaking of Emerald Warden, getting a jump to this bottom lane. Bubbles coming in here, looking to set up the double gank. And they're getting them four. Yes, they are. The Song of the Scenic at the last second, able to help burst him down enough. So that was close for Nymphora, but able to get the cleanup kill. So, well played by Bubbles, coming back after that death at least.
Yeah, and showing the power of the bottle right there. He did pick up that 6-minute rune on the double damage and kept it stored that entire time. So even though Polywog Priest did pick up that kill, it did set up a nice opportunity for Bubbles to utilize that double damage in the bottom lane, and that next rune was a regeneration. I guess Polywog Priest did pick it up to fill up the bottle. So rune control's actually been pretty 50-50. I think Polywog Priest has gotten 3 and Bubbles has gotten 1, but it only takes 1 double damage rune to set up a kill early on. So that's definitely good news. For the Hellborn side, and further good news is Silhouette is really managing a nice time. Glacius is now roaming around, leaving a solo Meraxes, and although Silhouette and Hammerstorm haven't been able to put out the damage to secure a kill on the Meraxes quite yet, it has opened up the lane for Silhouette to pick up some nice farm, and she's nipping at the heels of Polywog Priest here, just below that 300 GPM mark. Yeah. Which is certainly a good sign. Yeah,
I think Hammerstorm, as you said, may not be getting kills with the setup up here, but at the very least, his presence alone is definitely forcing the Meraxes and Glacius lane to play a lot more passive than perhaps they would like to, and it is showing in Meraxes' farm. He is managing to sit at that 200 gold per minute mark now, so again, not too shabby, but definitely not ideal for where he wants to be. Glacius, in the meantime, is actually in the middle lane, so obviously allowing Meraxes to get some solo experience here, as he is level 6 now, but Glacius, still remaining to be level 3, is actually looking to do something here in the middle lane with this Polywog Priest and Nymphora, but Bubbles, Hammerstorm, and Plague Rider are all heroes well ready for a Hellborn side, so kind of a battle going to be going on here, a battle stare down right now, 3v3 skirmish here in the middle lane, but we'll see if anything actually comes of it. His double damage rune is actually going to be bottled up by Polywog Priest. Of course, he has those wards up now, but Hellborn team not going to make it easy in terms of pushing and finishing this tower, so...
Yeah, our Legion side has done a good job of chipping away at this mid tower, so Polywog Priest can drop those wards in a really good location on that high ground. They'll probably be able to pick up a hero kill and a tower kill. Bubble is actually going to overcommit here. Looks like he wanted to engage on Nymphora. Polywog Priest going to go in, but he's going to be in some trouble here as well. He's going to end up falling. The ward trap still may be enough to finish off Bubbles. Bubbles is going to fall thanks to that Nymphora Zeal. Glacius now in big trouble. Cthulhu Font actually going to turn for the last tick of that Obliterate. A little bit surprised to see him man down that early. Probably could have finished off Glacius as there was nowhere left to run, but this Legion team is going to start turning it around. Hammerstorm going to come in with a beautiful stun. Almost going to secure that kill onto Glacius, but a beautiful stun from Architiger. Going to keep Glacius alive and allow them to turn it around. So the Legion team doing some pretty serious work there. Polywog Priest, despite getting taken out at the very beginning, does manage to pick up a double tap with those wards.
Yeah, that was very good for Polywog Priest that he did get those wards down before he died, because that no doubt was a big turning point of that fight at Ward Trapped Bubbles, as we saw, and obviously even able to set up the Kona Plague Rider, who hung out a little bit too long trying to do enough, but those wards just constantly pounded into him and eventually got him killed. So, yeah, very good news for the Legion team again that he was able to get that off, and great save at that last second, too, on Glacius. Initially, a great Hammerstorm stun to save Cthulhu in the first place, but obviously it to be bad news for him. Emerald Warden, in the meantime, that will be bursted down. The Plague comes out. It is still bouncing around, so a good amount of damage actually happening. Kelfield's not up for 12 seconds, unfortunately, so not going to be able to use it right here, and both Glacius and Polywog Priest with enough CC are able to get out. In fact, Bubbles takes a lot of damage in return, so he will have to fall back, but a good upfront burst damage, able to get the kill on the Emerald Warden at least.
Yeah, definitely a nice kill there. This Bubbles, though, I mean, he's been going balls to the wall. That's back-to-back engages where he's just manned up and gone straight in, ready to rock and roll. I mean, right there, even if he had Kelp Field, then that wouldn't have seemed so, like, just radical. Bubbles is going in, guys. Hope you're ready. But without the Kelp Field, it seemed he put himself in harm's way. Maybe a little bit too aggressively. If the Legion side was playing a little bit more aggressive, I think they may have been able to take him out. But like you said, in the end, it did work out, of course, securing that kill onto Emerald Warden. But Polywog Priest, man, still leading the way in Gold Farm by a nice margin here, sitting happily above 300 GPM. And I was actually looking at an article Clan Milk posted yesterday about carry heroes, and it was interesting to see on there the 5 heroes they talked about. Polywog Priest was actually listed as a carry hero, and they kind of talked about, he's not a traditional carry, but he has so much disable, such great pushing potential, and pretty solid burst damage with that ward trap and the jolt. He really can start to take over a game and carry if he gets that early farm, as we've seen many a time, especially in that solo role. And I think this game is actually serving to be a pretty good demonstration.
Yeah, I think that all comes down to how you define carry ultimately. I mean, do you define carry as that just right-click, like just will take you out, like we seem to define it at most app, or do you define it as, in that case, what it seems like they're getting at, is a hero that can just take over a game himself almost, especially in the earlier stage. And Polywog Priest no doubt fits that role, similar to a Wretched Hag, a Pebbles, as we like to call it, that snowball effect, really. So I think in that sense, yeah, I definitely can agree with that. I mean, because of that CC, as you put it, and just because the ward traps, I mean, every single ward cooldown, he could theoretically get a kill. And, if he's just keeping up on that, he should be able to get a kill every single cooldown. So and that's obviously a hero that, when he gets a start like he has, and obviously great news for the Legion team that he does. He's now 3-1-1, so definitely getting some kills in there, 3 kills and 1 assist, and kind of continuing to be the top farmer in the game. So to get that Ring of Sorcery first, he has to have, he has 1,200 gold saved up here, so we will see if he goes for perhaps that portal key next, but still sitting on Little Red Booties as well. So yeah, again, we'll keep a close eye on Polywog Priest and how he decides to build up.
Yeah. Up in the top line, some back-and-forth exchange. A beautiful Arcane Shield was used by Meraxis to mitigate a Hammerstorm stun, and they almost turned it around on Silhouette, who in turn used a nice Shadow to get away. So kind of well played on both sides there up at the top lane to avoid death on either side of the coin. But I think you're right about kind of how do we define a carry? Is it someone that can take over a game, or is it someone just that kind of what we used to think of, at least in my mind, is like a Mage Bane or some sort of generally agility carry. So it's interesting. It was just one of those kind of like, hey, I was just reading an article about this the other day, and it's coming true. And I just thought I'd give a little shout out to Clan Milk. It doesn't hurt to support the guys, helping support the game we love. So.
They do have some great articles up there, and I've definitely kept an eye every now and then. And I know that they have one guy that does daily feature, even I don't know if it's daily, but of like tip of the day or something like that, a YouTube video or just random tips. So they're actually good to watch. So yeah, I've been posting on Reddit.
Good stuff, nonetheless. So very cool. But all things considered, this game is kind of slowed down a little bit. Only 10 kills here now as we approach that 15-minute mark. If we look in the inventory, it's not too many huge item pickups. We see Cthulhu with his Helm of the Black Legion, Silhouette with her Sustainer. It's probably going to be picking up that Nullstone first, and then probably into a portal key, as we were talking about. And Meraxis actually already going to be able to pick up that portal key, as we see he's porting with Nymphora here, and they are going to head to this bottom lane. It looks like they're just going to try and push this tower. Nice, I guess a nice call from Architiger here to identify the low tower. Going to port down, and they should be able to get this tower kill. Oh, perhaps not. The glyph going to be used. 2 ports coming in, and the deny is done. So well played here by the Elborn side, or at least a nice response.
Yeah.
and they will score the tower deny. So again, kind of on both sides, a good attempt from Nymphora, but even a better response from the Hellborn team.
Yeah, it's definitely good timing on their part by our Hellborn side right there. So I actually played that very well. Vulnerability at the last second and able to deny the tower. So, unfortunately for the Legion team, spent a little bit of time and obviously, as you said, invested into the Nymphora ultimate to get down there in the first place. And the fact that they really didn't get much out of it is definitely well played again by our Hellborn side. So. We do see him push here in the middle lane, though. Kelfu going to be coming out. Here we go. The Hellborn team initiating about Morax is a counter initiation, actually. A great Quake Sun. He activated the ultimate. He explodes it already. He's looking to pick up some kills in the background. Meanwhile, over here, Cthulhu doing all that he can. But Morax is doing work on those front lines with Polywalk Priest wards. We do see 3 heroes down for Hellborn side. Nobody down for the Legion side. The tower will fall, and Cthulhu also going to be taken out. Hat trick coming out for Polywalk Priest right there. Boy, oh boy, I think we just saw our first really big momentum play of the game, and that puts the Legion team quite a bit ahead right now early on here.
Yeah, they've got a beautiful lead. They're actually even going to be able to put some pressure on this Tier 3 tower in the mid lane, and they have a good 10 seconds or so before they really need to be too scared. That exchange was just so bad for the Hellborn side. The Polywog Priest ward placement was spot on, doing a ton of hero damage, but also doing a lot of damage to that tower. So while they were hero fighting, by the time that engage was done, they already had the tower kill, and they didn't have to waste time. They could go straight for the base. Right there, kind of the power of Polywog Priest. That Tier 3 tower is already down to about a third health, so that's an even... sort of an additional treat to being able to take out that tower so quickly while the team play was commencing. Yeah. So, again, I think some well-dones are in order here for Polywog Priest, who is now 6-1-1, only 17 minutes in.
Yeah, he has been that carry role here early on for our Legion side, no doubt. And as you mentioned, over that 400 GPM mark now, I mean, his item's not really showing for it because he's still been sitting on the same item, so he did just buy a Necrolite book right there, or a Neophytes book. Well, we'll see what that actually. What is that going to be turning into? Is it going to be a tablet? I mean, where is he going with that? Obviously, he bought something else prior to that, so I wasn't aware of what he actually did purchase. But
a Gnome's Wisdom really might not be a bad choice in this game. They have a lot of heroes that can spam abilities between Emerald Warden and Nymphora, as we talk quite a bit about their spamming potential. Polywog Priest and Glacius both casting a lot of spells, and even Meraxis. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Gnomes in this game, though Push Book certainly is maybe
he did
a little more
post-haste.
Traditional post-haste as well. He's going to go straight for the post. That's actually something I was going to say. He was pooling that gold. I was thinking we may see kind of a no-tail style here with the early post-haste. So, very well, still could transition into that Gnome's Wisdom, but interesting nonetheless.
My only problem with that, as you said, no-tail, of course, when he played that Polywog Priest so dominant in that era of his... that was a very popular build, the post-haste portal key. And going back to that, I do question a little bit going the Neophytes book rather than investing into the portal key next. As we see right there, it looks like he is going to be able to finish that tablet of command, which it will be great for, setting up ganks, no doubt. But the great thing about having the portal key, obviously longer range, and allows you to port in quickly to a pushed-up creep wave, or perhaps that one is pushing up to the eventual hero that you want to gank, and then you just portal key in and take them out. And also the fact that they have a Nymphora to port him around as well. You could argue maybe takes away a little bit from the poster, but at the same time he can assist now with maybe like Moraxis or somebody else that ports in. Speaking of Moraxis, though, he jumps in to counter right here. Hammerstone is going to be taken on the kill in the background for Bubbles, but the silencing shot comes out, and too much damage going to fall. Plague Rider ultimate bouncing around in the background, but not enough damage to clear out everyone. Only gets to help kill the Moraxis, but Plague Rider falls. Cthulhu Font will go down. And that'll complete the genocide right there for our Legion team. And we already have the concede vote coming out right now from a Hellborn side. Yeah, I mean, Legion side, I guess, pretty dominant here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the item difference is definitely starting to show. That fight, Emerald Warden did have a level 1 shield breaker in hand. That Nymphora port coming in was really, really strong. Beautiful positioning on that port as well. Allowed them to get in that fight right away. And I want to say she brought Emerald Warden with her, though. It kind of ended up being a little bit of a rave on the screen, and I kind of missed who came in right on top of her. So I've heard people say that before. People that, League of Legends players that start playing Han, they're like, how do you even tell what's going on, man? It's just like a rave happening on my screen during team fights.
A rave.
That's what, dude, I've heard people say. Han's too colorful, Breaky. You got to tone down the colors.
It's a bad problem, right?
It's the best bad problem to have. I like the vibrant colors. I'm a little bit colorblind, Breaky, so I need vibrant colors.
It's one of those on any game. You can argue that for any of the games. League of Legends, Dota, HUD. I mean, if you don't play it, if you're not used to it, that's going to catch you off guard. It's going to be a little bit confusing.
Yeah,
going into those team fights. So it's kind of silly to make that argument in the first place. I mean,
it's just a funny way to describe it. I've never heard it. You know, you could say, yeah, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. The animations are really vibrant. I can go with that, but it looks like a rave. Like, yeah. I mean, I've never really been to a rave, but I can't imagine that's what they look like.
I guess that's true.
Anyhow, we do see an initiation in the bottom lane. Hammerstorm most certainly going to fall. Loraxis going to utilize that portal key. And now this Legion team just going to be running around. Looks like they've picked up total rune control at this point as well. Polywog Priest had a double damage in that last fight. Now he's got a haste rune activated. He's been filling up that bottle. Looking at the warding situation, it is not good for the Hellborn side. I don't think they have a single one ward on the map here, and it's in kind of an odd place here next to the red tombstone in their jungle. And this Legion team definitely in good shape as far as warding. Architiger doing a pretty good job, as is Glacius here with those counter wards. So perhaps some of the rune wards were just taken down by counters, but still. Hellborn side's completely lost map control at this point. You know, I think it's one of these situations where it's really in the hands of the Legion team to throw more so than anything else.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, remember, they did throw out a concede vote about 2-3 minutes ago, but clearly not conceding just yet, so frustration definitely kicking in, but a case of, you know, calming each other down, maybe be like, all right, let's not give up just yet. And I like that decision. I mean, they do have a Silhouette who has been having a pretty solid game, and, you know, we definitely have seen many cases of, as long as she's doing great, I mean, she can definitely be a huge impact for your team. So she did just finish her Nullstone, so that is a powerful item to have earlier on here.
Definitely right. And you make a good point. She's still been able to hold that 300 GPM. And, I mean, all things considered, Silhouette's been pretty quiet this game. Only 1-1-1, avoiding death, but also really avoiding these huge cataclysmic team fights for the most part. Perhaps now that she has the Null Stone, we'll see her be a little bit more active as far as team fights are concerned. I mean, at this point, it's coming down to the point where...
Gonna have to be.
Silly, yeah, where there's really nothing else to do. There's no point in sitting back and farming if you're going to have to concede another team fight. So... I think we have at least one big team fight left in us, and the victor of that will really determine where this game is going to go from there. We could see Emerald Warden in a little bit of trouble here. He's going to throw down an... Oh, that's not an Overgrowth. That would be a Kelp Field. Emerald Warden now in big trouble. The stun's coming out. The Obliterate actually going to be used, and down goes Pew. So this could be kind of the opportunity the Hellborn side's looking for to set up a continual fight here as far as a 5v1 is concerned, but it doesn't look like they're going to find that opportunity.
How about that? I mean, you mentioned that the one war that they have on the map, it's in definitely a little bit of an odd spot, but that got them to kill an Emerald Warden right there.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Already coming into play. At the top lane, we do have a War Trap actually going to come out of Bubbles, actually, and the Kelp or the Tongue Tied on top of that, and Bubbles ain't going to be going nowhere. So great gank set up here at the top side, and obviously N4 actually not porting him in. That was just they happened to be there, and was able to tablet in to get in position to get the kill. It's also in range of the tower. That made it even that much more powerful. And now they're going to port to the bottom lane right here, and N4 going to take them bottom. Now, I believe they were spotted initially porting, but will it be enough? Oh, he misses that Quakestone that we wanted to go for both, but he gets neither. However, Hex going to hit Hammerstorm, but no follow-up going to happen. So that was definitely a case of we've all been there. At least I'm not afraid to admit it. You're like, oh, I want to make the biggest stun ever. And instead of getting everyone, you get nobody because you want to go right in the middle for that perfect sweet spot. But just too far away. So they will stay alive. But the whole team going to group up down here, and wouldn't be surprised to see our Legion side making another push.
Yep, and up in that top lane, as you mentioned, Polywog Priest, again, with really, really key ward placement as far as being able to pick up the kill and then just push that tower directly after. And that's one of those things with Polywog Priest. You really want to find those opportunities to make those wards even more effective, which VN Sensation has really been doing well this game. At least 3 times, I think at least 3 tower kills are kind of responsible, or, you know, the outcome of really key ward placement as far as picking up kills and then towers. We're going to see the last outer remaining tower for the Hellborn side fall momentarily here. Down it goes to the hands of Emerald Warden, and now it looks like it's going to be time for Team Felash to push the base. Like you said, always a little nervous pronouncing words that are unfamiliar.
Don't know. It's, yeah, so... Again,
sounds a little dirty.
That's what I'm saying. It definitely sounds dirty, but maybe it isn't. Maybe it does mean like world peace or something like that, in whatever language it is. So I'm gonna go with the dirty one though. So So yeah, another tower push. That is what all the outer towers have actually been cleared out now. So they are down, of course, to their base towers here for our Hellborn side. Silhouette continuing to do her thing. I will say we haven't seen Silhouette do as much, pushing with her illusion as we're used to seeing, with players like Moon Meander, of course, one that comes to mind. Especially as of recently, he plays it so well simply because they use that ultimate so effectively, especially in this mid-game stage where a farm really starts to enhance. They'll push up the lane, they'll keep the illusion way back on their side of the map, and then as soon as they feel any type of pressure, of course, they'll pour back and be safe or even keep it in a position to defend the base if need be as well. So, but I want to say, we haven't seen our Silhouette player here really doing a whole lot of that, unfortunately. We do see a jump to one, a Plague Order happening from Moraxis against Cthulhu with the counter. Great obliterate, actually. A lot of damage coming out, but a nice Astral Appeal that kill foot holding them in place from Bubbles with their Polywog Priest dropping. He finally will get the wards off. Silhouette standing in the background. The ward trap comes down. Not going to hit anybody, though, so it's just going to do a little bit of damage, but the rest of the Hellborn players will get away, so it ends up being ward bitch for ward bitch right there as Plague Rider and Glacius exchange lives, and the push is probably going to be stalled because of that. So not too shabby of a defense right there from a Hellborn team.
No, not at all. And right there, we kind of saw the power of the Polywog Priest wards in these team fights. As we've observed throughout this game, most of the fights have been initiated by Polywog Priest or been a direct follow-up to a Moraxis initiation. Right there, the wards didn't come out until the fight was already sort of slowing down. So that's really the difference between this Hellborn team being successful in these fights and really struggling quite a bit. We see Polywog Priest has now picked up a Staff of the Master instead of a Portal Key, so even more wards coming down, which makes it even more imperative that they either find an initiation where Polywog Priest isn't amidst the Legion team or start that initiation on Polywog Priest himself. I think that really was amplified in that fight.
Mm-hmm. It was, and it has continued to be a huge impact, of course, for our Legion side. So, 9-1-3 here for Polywog Priest. So again, he's no doubt been that carrying figure once again for our Legion side. That Staff of the Master with those more wards now. Even more powerful. Wouldn't be surprised to see Restoration Stone. Usually that is the pair-up item that we see whenever we go Staff of the Master on Polywog Priest. Eventually, at least, it's considered more the luxury item, of course. But with the way he's going, wouldn't be surprised to see that again. So,
and with the boosted, it just adds wards to the count. How many more does it add?
3 total. It goes from 8 to 11, so 11 to 22 if you hit twice. So, yeah.
Share my Polywog Priest ignorance with you here, Breaky. It's not too often we see Staff of the Master. So
it is one of those rare items that we bring up, though, occasionally, because there are a couple of heroes, and Polywog Priest is one of those, that we will see it on if so. Yeah.
I know it added a couple wards, but that's a pretty good chunk of DPS, though. If you figure each ward hits for about 50 damage, I mean, that's actually pretty significant. And, of course, Staff of the Master also giving you all those stats on the side. It's a pretty solid pick here. It's a little bit interesting to see it before Portal Key, but I guess he figures with Moraxis to initiate, then also having the Tablet of Command kind of maybe a little bit overkill. And we see Staff of the Master proving to be a slightly more effective pick. I mean, Polywog Priest is pretty tanky as well. He's sitting at 1,500 HP, which is almost the highest in the game, second to only that of Moraxis, who, of course, is a very tanky figure in his own right. So, I'm liking the pick here for Polywog.
Yeah, and that kind of does go back to that really ultimately is a preference style thing, because especially with the start that he had, I mean, Polywog is just one of those crazy aggressive heroes. If he gets a rolling start like this game, then if you go that Portal Key early on, I mean, he will just amplify that much more because he'll be able to jump on you earlier on and just really catch you off guard. So, that kind of does go back to the whole him going Tablet, but Tablet is the much more safer choice for obvious reasons. If you do start to take damage, you can still push yourself away. It does give you the stats, so it definitely is the safer item to go, so I could definitely see why he would go it as well. But, I mean, you look at his, he was nearly 1,600 alive, 1,700 mana. Obviously, Staff of the Master helping with that as well. So, yeah, all around, I mean, is that the most life in the game? It's just below Cthulhu Font, so, yeah, he's...
and Moraxis.
Oh, Moraxis
it's pretty damn close. It's within 50 hit points. I mean, that's kind of remarkable for a squishy int hero like Polywog Priest.
Yeah.
But, some other item pickups. Silhouette now has a shield breaker, a level 2 shield breaker at that, which is definitely a sizable item pickup here for the Hellborn side. Cthulhu with his Shaman's Headdress, probably going to turn that into a barrier idol here, as he does have the Refreshing Ornament as well. The Legion team going to attempt Kongor here. The Hellborn side does have a ward in beautiful locations, so they know exactly what is afoot and certainly prepared to pose a defense if necessary. Other item pickups, Moraxis looks like he's moving towards Hellflower here with that first Arcana, as well as our Emerald Warden here actually going to finish up a Shrunken Head, which is always a powerful item.
Yeah, it is really... Yeah, that's sorry, let me cut you off there, but yeah, chunking out, of course, very, very powerful. Always to get. Nice to know on the tower. Not that it really matters too much, but at least denying a little bit of gold there. But it's so unfortunate, though, that Hammer Storm has just had so little impact this game. I mean, when it comes to his items, it's what I'm really focused. I mean, he's farming 68 gold for me. That's literally nothing here for a Hellborn team. And at the very least, a portal key. I mean, at the very least, a shrunken head. You know, being able to get that earlier item, you know, before the 30-minute mark, one of those two at the very least is something, you know, you would love to have. And really, they needed to have, I think, here for this Hellborn team. So the fact that they don't have that on him, you know, they really don't have a powerful initiator other than Bubbles, obviously, but, you know, where's the follow-up coming after that? We are going to see him trample in right here about the Hammer Ward and procking that, or using that Shuriken in the meantime. Moraxis stomps on a Hammer Storm in the back. We're going to start doing some damage to him now. The Plague Ward ultimate going to start bouncing around here, but there's a large creep wave that just came, absorbing a good chunk of it. The Obliterate's activated by Cthulhu in the background. However, he will fall shortly after. Look at Emerald Warden in the front lines, tearing up Bubbles and Plague Rider, and Moraxis chasing Silhouette all the way back to the well. So splitting them all up. They're going to take out both of the racks right here. And our Legion side, it just seems like they're getting a little bit too strong for our Hellborn team to handle right now.
Yeah, at this point, it's looking like we're pretty close to seeing the GG well-playeds come out. But right before that fight, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Breaky. You talked about that lack of powerful initiation. And as we saw, Cthulhu really struggled quite a bit. Silhouette can use a homecoming stone there to try and get out. Obviously, not going to be a successful effort. But I think that lack of initiation, like you said, even if Bubbles goes in, gets that kelp field, where's the follow-up? I mean, that Plague Goose, so unfortunate. I mean, the timing couldn't really have been too much worse there as far as when that creep wave came and really minimized the amount of damage it could put out. So kind of unfortunate for the Hellborn team, but you know, again, to overuse my catchphrase, all things considered, not a bad first game to start things off today, Break.
Not bad at all. I definitely thought that was very even earlier on. It's just a case of one team starting to get a little bit of momentum, and, you know, it was hard to stop. So all the credit in the world to our Legion side right there, and Felash. Congratulations to them. They will be moving on to the round of 16 now here in the Gosu event, where they're actually going to be playing the winner of the Fnatic. Who are they playing? Fnatic versus Aerial Decay is the matchup that's going above this. So maybe we'll continue with this. So very likely we will, in fact. So perhaps we're going to see this winner face Fnatic now, but or whoever won that series, not to get too ahead of myself. But anyways, we'll definitely be back, of course, with our next matchup, and then one more after that. So again, to reiterate, there's going to be 3 matches that we're planning to cover today, going into tomorrow, of course. So we got 1 down, 2 more to go. We'll see how things finish off for the rest of the day.
Exactly right. We're hoping to get some Orange Esports Malaysia action, guys. I believe they had a walkover in the first round, so that was one of the issues as far as getting them a match. But if things line up, you know, we're in that bracket for the round of 8, where if Orange Esports Malaysia wins all the way to the round of 8, we'll hopefully be able to cast them. So that's one thing Breaky and I, as I'm sure many of you out there were looking forward to, because during that podcast we talked about Orange Esports Malaysia, and we haven't seen them in a while, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can bring to the table, especially with DreamHack approaching so quickly. So that's kind of one of our goals today as far as some of our coverage. But as Breaky said, we are going to take a small break. Well, maybe not a break. Put on some music while we find another match for you guys, and we'll be back momentarily.